big guy up on top of me, gouging my eyes out with his thumbs, like sick, perverted, twisted things. And I'm alive because I let him do it. Anytime I would fight back, it would escalate. And he was, double my size. So there was no me winning that in any capacity. The police showed up at the inopportune time, I guess, when my ex decided to go walk the dog covered in my blood.
And boom, we are live. What's up, everybody? Couple Casuals Podcast. I am your host, Stefano. And guys, we have a very important conversation for you guys today. My guest today is on a mission to end women's violence. And her story is one of courage, perspective, and change. So I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. And guys, today's episode is brought to you by Canada First. Secure your home with Canada's best home fortification. Visit them at canadafirst.com to learn more. And so with that being said, I want to welcome Cait Alexander to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Welcome. It's very nice to have you.
It's lovely to be here. It's a little rough to be in Toronto.
Yes. And that's kind of where I want to get your opinion. What is your thoughts coming in back to Toronto? I know you used to live here. Now you live in the States. Many people want to follow that path. What is the kind of feeling coming back to Toronto?
It's always nerve-wracking. And I think it increases almost every single time, especially with the advocacy that we've been doing and taking down certain predators. It doesn't feel safe. Like that's really, really
a lot of people agree with that. It does not feel safe. It has significantly changed over the past several years. These are one of the things we're going to talk about today, Cait, that for sure. But it's unfortunate to see where our country has gone. You as a Canadian citizen, you share that sentiment with me that it's very scary on where we're headed and what has happened. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. But I kind of want to start with a quote that I came across that maybe you'll resonate with, maybe you'll like. Tony Robbins, I'm sure you're familiar with Tony Robbins. He says, find a way to make your worst day your best day. And I thought that resonated with this conversation because I've followed your story and I've seen what has happened. And I feel like that is sort of what you're doing. You're turning something that has been so unfortunate in many senses, so hard for you to go through, and turn it into a positive in a way because it's being impactful. It's sharing awareness. You're sharing your story. You're putting yourself in a vulnerable position to put yourself out there for the betterment of that. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I appreciate that. That's very generous of you. Thank you for that, to be compared to someone of that stature or recognized in that capacity, certainly. But for me, it's being in the public eye in the fashion world, the entertainment world, TV series, whatever, and then having, nearly being killed and then not being able to talk about that, but pretending to live this life of glamour or moving to California. Most people didn't know why I moved. I moved, sure, for my career, but I moved because I had to save my life. And when everything went public with what my ex did to me on March 26, 2024, it was freeing for me. So like the liberty of being able to live authentically and have the worst day of my life not be this dark secret while I'm presenting this image of, the first magazine that I shot after I was nearly killed was Canadian Living magazine, and it was a beautiful Christmas holiday glitter, and I had holes in my head when I was shooting that. Could barely fit my feet into the shoes because they were still so swollen. And I just remember this dichotomy, and like reality didn't match what was going on inside of me. And I was so grateful that the public was so welcoming, and they really gave me my justice.
That's very powerful, honestly. And I would like to dive into for how comfortable you are to speak about it, which I hope that we can talk about it in the capacity that you feel called to. But for the people tuning in that sort of want to understand what happened to you, your story, and how it unfolded into the journey that you're pursuing today.
Well, thank you. I got into a COVID relationship like we all did back in 2020, 2021. I spent COVID in therapy, trying to better my life. I know a lot of people partied a lot, but I tried to do something for
It was one of the two, right?
It was like you're either doing this one or this one, and I kind of leaned towards the other one, the healthier way to do it. But and I was in a really good place. And I'd been single for about a year, and then I met someone on the last night before lockdown, and it was like everyone wants to go out, go to the restaurant, go to Casamoto, go do the thing. And I ended up at this house party, and that person ended up being the person that nearly took my life about 8 months later. And subsequently, from the loneliness, from the isolation, it being winter, the lockdowns up and down, people needed human connection. And so I think the relationship was expeditious, and it grew far too quickly, and he could control the narrative because we didn't have social norms. So he could present an image to me without having the ecosystem of humanity around him. And so that's what happened. And he was able to love bomb me, as they say. And I and my parents and my family thought, he was perfect, and we were going to get married, and it was going to be happily ever after. And on July 31st, 2021, he nearly beat me to death in our house in Leaside. And I'm lucky to be alive.
That is just something. I feel like that story it runs through during that time. Like how much of an increase have we seen in domestic abuse and violence during that time? And it's so unfortunate to see so many unfortunate things happen during COVID, and that was definitely one of them. Can you take us through, was there a series of events that lead, for the people that don't understand a domestic abusive relationship, was there signs, was there indicators that led you to this moment? Was it a complete surprise? What was it like from your perspective?
So from January 2021 until about May, my birthday's in May, and that's when everything switched, till May 2021. And it was fairy tale. You really couldn't get much better. And then once he realized that I had, gotten rid of my condo, I was now in the house with him full time. It was really on. That's when he realized that I was not trapped, but I didn't have anywhere else to go. And that's when the abuse really started. It started first with guests being over at our house for a pool party, and him breaking a mason jar on the pool deck and kicking me into the glass, basically. And that was the first time I was like, wait, this is very weird. What is going on? And then he apologized profusely and was like, I was just intoxicated. It's like, okay, sure. And we then, we couldn't travel very far, so we took a trip, kind of like an apology trip, if you will, the big I'm sorry trip, to Chelsea, Quebec, and went to the spa. And I was driving the car back to the hotel, and he grabbed my head and smashed it into the driver's side window. And that's when the world stopped. I don't know how to process this. I didn't grow up with violence. What is that? He's a 6'3", 220-pound man, and I'm driving the car because he's had too much to drink. And why am I your brain just goes in 50 different places and you don't know what to do. And I froze. And I just thought, okay, again, feeling isolated because it's COVID. I don't know how to get out of here. I don't know where to go. You can barely travel across the provincial border. So I'm like, I'll just be nice and get through this. And my mom started to sense something was off. And this was, putting us into about June 2021. And then I realized that I probably had to get out of this relationship. And he started to pick up on the fact that I wanted to leave. And what's little known, other than to those that have been through the experience, is that the most dangerous time for someone to leave an abusive relationship is the 2 weeks prior and the 2 weeks after you leave. He tried to kill me because I was leaving, because he knew he had no more power and control, and I had my way out, and he did not want that. He wanted me to have no autonomy over my life, and he went ballistic and confined me to the upper part of the house and beat me for 3 to 4 hours. And that was his way of trying to keep me as small as possible.
Why would he just randomly do? I don't understand why men do this. Like, I don't know. Did he just randomly hit you? Why did he do that?
I was shooting nights. So I was shooting this Hallmark movie up in Barrie, and I came home was it Saturday? I came home at about 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Really tired. And it's like, I'm going to bed. I could tell he would like been up all night. I don't know if he was using drugs or drinking or whatever. I wasn't there. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to bed, like whatever. Then I woke up around 2 in the afternoon, and I made him lunch, and I took a picture of it for some reason. I was like, something just felt off. And then he couldn't find his car keys. He was severely intoxicated, and I said, you don't need your keys. You gotta take an Uber wherever you're going. I don't know. Like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I've been working all week. And he then tried to burn my handbags on the stove. And I was like, why? Like, obviously that caused an argument. And it's like, why are you doing this? Like, what is going on? He said, where are my keys? I'm like, I don't know where your keys are. I've been asleep. Like, what do you want from me? And it just escalated. And it went out of control. And then I can't really express the level of pain because I couldn't feel it in the moment, just because it was so relentless. You know, he's big guy up on top of me, gouging my eyes out with his thumbs, like sick, perverted, twisted things. And I'm alive because I let him do it. Anytime I would fight back, it would escalate, and he was, double my size. So there was no me winning that in any capacity. And the smartest thing I ever did was take photos and videos of him doing this to me during the time without his knowledge. And I have all that evidence, 40 or so photos and videos. And I had sent a 2-word WhatsApp message at 6:09 p.m. that evening to a director friend of mine, which just happened to be the first WhatsApp conversation on my laptop. And that director friend of mine believed me and then called my agents, who then tried to contact me, and then called a bunch of my friends. And everyone was like, we're just going to call the police. And then the police showed up at the inopportune time, I guess, when my ex decided to go walk the dog covered in my blood.
Oh my goodness.
Like a normal psychopath does. Sorry, I laugh because I've told this story so many times, but it's just, after working with so many abused people, you see the patterns, and it's just so textbook.
It is. Is that the way it sort of unfolds?
They're all the same.
That's strange, isn't it?
The survivors, the victims, cannot come from all different walks of life, social, economic backgrounds, demographics, religious, whatever. The abusers have a playbook, and they almost all follow it to a T. Like, nothing surprises me anymore. We see this in the macrocosm that is the Epstein files situation, and we see it in the microcosm of that, like, almost verbatim type of situation, the trafficking of humans, the intimate partner violence, the sexual assault of what's going on or what's been going on in King West, and the clubbing and the nightlife industry. So it's scalable, these sort of techniques that these abusers use. And I'm just so fortunate to be here.
So this is Val. She's quite pretty. I'm gonna throw a brick at her face, and she's standing behind a glass door that's been fortified by Canada First. You can see her face is very much still intact. So now I'm gonna bring in the CEO of Canada First. He's gonna stand behind the glass that's already been damaged. He's gonna risk his pretty face. Let's see what happens. And I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it. Still here. Still here. That's just incredible. Like,
yeah, but the comments are gonna say, why didn't you kick it?
You're not breaking it. Like, this is incredible.
I want to get into the possible consequences or what followed from that. But before we do, for the women that are listening that could be in that situation or are just curious on what to do in that situation if they are in it, you mentioned how it's dangerous the 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after. Looking back, what would be like your advice for a safe exit in a situation like this?
Thank you. The first time someone hits you, leave. Tell people, involve the police. Do not go alone. Contact charities like mine, charities like Shelter Movers, charities that understand how dangerous this is, and get out and don't go back. And that's easier said than done, but abusers never get better. They always escalate their violence. Because when they do a little bit and they get away with it, and do a little bit and get away with it, the bar of normal becomes so low over time that you don't even recognize that it's really happening anymore. So the minute that it happens, get out and do it quietly, do it quickly, and do it with other people.
I think that's very useful for people. I'm sorry that you went through that, honestly. Like,
thank you.
It's just very unfortunate that this happens, and I think it's happening more and more, which we know. What was this experience like for your family? Like, just coming from a parent perspective, I can just imagine what that's like to see your daughter go through something like that. What was it like for them, and even to this day, to see what you've done? What have they shared with you?
My whole family had to go to therapy, for sure. The moment, and again, I'm very, very fortunate. So many survivors don't have places to go or family that supports or doesn't blame. And I still think about the moment eventually when I was able to leave the house. I mean, I ended up at Sunnybrook for a long time. He was let out on bail. My ex was let out on bail for $500 the next day. Immediately came back to the house. I ended up calling my brother, and that's how I got out of the situation eventually. But I was still in danger, even though he had already been arrested. So when my parents came to pick me up, I was screaming at them because I was losing my house. I was losing my dog. I was losing my stepson. My stuff was still there. And, my dad locked me in the vehicle and said, we're leaving and that's it. And you're never coming back here. I needed someone to be my logic brain because I couldn't comprehend what was going on. And that is so common and so normal because you're giving up your entire life because this person did this to you. And it's like a death, but everyone's still alive. It's very bizarre.
Interesting perspective.
Super bizarre. It's like everything's gone but it's still there. And so the grief is something incredibly important to talk about. But I remember when we had police escorts to get all my things back, I had to give another formal statement. I mean, the tactical team, SWAT team, whatever you want to call it, found me in the house. They were there that night. It was a very intense situation, and all of my stuff was returned to me and ended up being stacked up in my parents' garage. And I remember just being in, finally the pain hit me, and I was just crying there because it was just, my stuff, I don't belong anywhere anymore. And my mom came up behind me and she was just wrapped her arms around me. She just said, "It's not your fault. None of this is your fault." And I can look back on that now and understand that that's when I started healing. And how lucky was I to have that level of validation from someone who loves and cares about me pretty immediately. And I think that's why I've never felt ashamed about this. Because my mom set in my brain that tone that it's like, you are not responsible for any of this. You did the absolute best that you could and you're alive. So whatever you did worked because he's here to kill you. And we're going to make sure that doesn't happen.
That's so powerful as a parent to sometimes just see the right thing at the right time.
I'll never forget it. It's like, you have those flashing moments in life. And that was one of them. It was utter silence and it's not your fault. I'm just like, oh, okay.
A feeling of safety, right? That's truly beautiful. Now, when one hears this, they would think you have photos, you have videos. this happened in such a horrific way. What happened to this individual? Did they get arrested? You said they went out on bail. What can you share with us as to what happened afterwards?
So reversing back to that night when he was walking the dog and the police showed up and I kind of was in and out of consciousness, he had seen that the police had shown up on the Ring camera. And so he started messaging me like, don't let the police in. You're a rat. You're a bunch of names. I'm going to kill your family. I'm going to kill everybody in your life. If you, like, I don't know. And
that was on text message?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
While the police are, and I wouldn't let them in because I had every reason to believe that he would succeed in doing those things because of what did I just go through for the last couple hours? Like your brain can't figure out which way's up, let alone having like massive concussions and like losing blood and all of those things. So I wouldn't let the police in for a while, and then they started to believe that it was a hostage situation, and so they sent the tactical team. Tactical team surrounded the house, and this is the weird part about it. In all that chaos and him on the phone and the police outside and the ambulance outside and, you know, just seeing the lights, the red and blue lights, you know, ricochet off of the walls, I hear, bam, 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 we're going to break in the doors if you don't let us in right now. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get sued. Like, that's literally what my thought process was. I was like, if I don't let them in, they're going to break the glass and he's going to sue me for the value. Like, that was whatever, like the most insane thing. And I was like, okay. And then in barged 7 dudes with giant guns and ladders and like, and it was so overwhelming. I just gotten done being beaten by a giant man, and now there's 7 other giant men in my house. Like, it was very hard for me to trust because it wasn't gentle. And there was blood everywhere, and there was the weapon still in the house, the wooden rolling pin, and they were looking for him in the attic. I didn't even know where the attic was. Like, they were searching, and they sent in a male paramedic, which I then was, because I was cognizant, I refused medical attention. Even though I absolutely had to go to the hospital, I was just like, I don't trust any, like, how am I supposed to trust you? Like, this is too terrifying. And so I walked out of the house and they're like, well, you need to leave this house because we think he's going to come back. We're going to sit here till he comes back. Right. But you need to leave. And it's okay. Well, where do I go? And this is sure. And what I ended up doing, because I was still worried about him going to my parents' house or going to my brother's house, I went and I found him. He was at a house party, which I later found out he was terrorizing people there, you know, saying racial slurs and trying to cut people's razor blades and like a whole bunch of psychotic things.
Oh my gosh.
I found that out like last year, but I showed up at this house party, black and blue, just to keep my eyes on him. And he eventually turned himself in. I then went back to the house, and this was a Sunday morning, and I just remember texting him being like, is my nose broken? Like, I was trying to understand what, like, I was trying to logically understand what he had done to me because there was so much. And so I was like, I think I need to take myself to the hospital. And I drove myself to Sunnybrook. Like, it was, and they immediately locked me in a private room. The police came. I knew where he was, but I had my whole body CAT scan, top to bottom. By the grace of God, nothing was broken. And I think it was because I just allowed him. I didn't fight him anymore. But, yeah, it was really bizarre. And then I went down, checked into a hotel, went down to the Ritz and stayed there for a few nights, and then like couldn't make sense of it. And I started taking more and more pictures of everything because I was just so...
Was he charged at this point?
Yeah, he had charges the minute they walked in the house, right? They waited for him to turn himself in, and he turned himself in eventually. But he's such a crafty criminal that he knew if he turned himself... It was a long weekend in August, right? The first weekend. If he turned himself in on the Saturday, he'd have to wait till the Tuesday to get it. So he waited till like Monday night or whatever it was, and then turned himself in, and $500, and he was out on the street.
And was he later convicted? Like, with all this compelling evidence, the videos, your testimony and stuff, what exactly, how did it unfold?
His charges ended up increasing from 3 to 8 over the course of a year. And despite all this evidence, all of it, I've never actually had a criminal trial for my attempted murder.
So he was just, the charges were dropped?
Not dropped. They were stayed under Jordan's rule, which was a 2016 Supreme Court decision that amended the charter rights, so Chapter 11B, to speedy trial laws effectively. So provincial charges need to get to court within 18 months or they can throw it out. Indictable offenses, 30 months or you throw it out. So in this country, in Canada, we have murders, child rapists, pornography users, human traffickers, intimate partner violence. Like, all these cases, 10,000 in the last 10 years have been thrown out.
All because of an inability to get it in a time frame that's sufficient in the government's eyes.
Bureaucracy, yeah.
And that was put through by Justin Trudeau, you mentioned earlier.
He was under, it wasn't a direct relation to it, but his appointees and
Right. His Liberal government.
he was in power at the time, yes. It was, he was in 2015, I think.
2015, yeah. So it was right around, that's around the time that a lot of policies and legislation put through by them that was, it's just now when you look back at it, you just go, I cannot believe this. And that's one of them.
Well, it's his Liberal policy that allowed my ex out on bail for $500.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the United States, it's not a perfect system by any means. And, no, there's a lot of horrors going on there, but he would have been held in custody.
Yes.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Like $500, like he'd go for dinner, it's $500. Like, why is the value of my life, survivors' lives, like grocery money?
Yeah, that's appalling. It truly is.
Makes you sick.
What was just lastly on it, just following this, like, what is the recovery process mentally and physically for someone experienced like this?
Oh, I'm so fortunate. I keep saying that because I was able to physically get distance when I realized that it was actually April. It was August 30th, 2021. I was having lunch at Cafe Novo, so in Yorkville, and my ex started circling in his car, and I realized, okay, this is like 30 days or whatever. This is my first lunch out, I'm trying to still bruise, but, trying to get into some normal life. And like, he's going to finish the job. And so I said, I'm out of here. And I had already had a U.S. visa for fashion modeling and O1 for, entertainment stuff. And then just called my agents. I said, print more paperwork. I'm out of here. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to, there's no way. If he can do all of that and be free, like, what else is there left to do? He has to kill me. That's the only thing that he didn't do. So I left.
And that's when you moved to the United States.
Yeah. Saved my life.
What year was that?
2021.
2021. How has that transition been?
I was in a very disassociative state, really. Like, the beauty of LA and Rodeo Drive, whatever, didn't match how I was feeling. And I couldn't figure out, like, I could still feel him around me. I could still feel the psychological breakdown of that, the trauma, the impact of, having your head pummeled into the hardwood floor 50 times. Like, it stays with you. It's in your body. It's in your cells. It's in your neuropathology. And so I was obviously in therapy, trying to get myself back into, I wasn't happy, but I was happy to be out of Toronto. I was happy to be gone. I was happy to have an American border between myself and my assailant. But I didn't really start getting better until I accessed, like, mental health treatment. I went in inpatient and outpatient and did eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, which is EMDR, which is the number one for PTSD, number one for, trauma survivors. And it saved my life. It gave me joy and happiness back. It gave me, gave me my smile back. It gave me trust back in humanity and faith in that things can still be okay. Because not only did he nearly take my life, but then the justice system doubled down on that, or the injustice system, as we call it.
Right, which we're definitely going to talk about. Following that, when did the initiative start to take place? Like, you looked inward and said, okay, I'm going to make my worst day my best day now by putting myself out there, sharing my story, and creating these initiatives that have brought awareness around this topic in general. When did those efforts start to happen?
So I'd always, optically on social media or whatever, everyone's like, okay, move to LA. Like, that makes sense. Nobody questioned it. Nobody knew the real reason why. And I had a really hard time working on set, recovering from injuries that took, 6 months sometimes to properly, like, my head trauma was really, really rough. It took a while to heal. And I didn't want to live inauthentically. Music is the one thing, like the one place I could dump it all. I ended up doing like another degree at Berkeley College in Boston during my recovery time because I needed something to keep my mind busy because I couldn't move my body the way that I wanted to. But I threw myself back into music. I'm a Royal Conservatory kid. I just wrote a bunch of songs. We've actually started releasing them. I was in the studio yesterday, actually. I'm like, where was I yesterday? And using art to convey that. And then when the government on December 16th, 2022 decided to stay the first 5 charges, stay meaning disappear into thin air, essentially, the rage.
I would imagine.
Yeah, that was a rough day.
That was the take matters in my own hands moment.
Oh, that was the start of that was that. And then when they did it a second time for the other assault charges, the indictable assault charges, that was in January 2024. And I looked at the Crown Attorney, Corey Langdon, and I said, we're not doing this your way anymore. We're doing this my way, and I'm not doing it. It's going to be the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. When I go to my peace bond hearing on March 26, 2024, I'm going to tell everything that happened. I'm going to hold up the photos. I'm going to show this judge that they made a horrifying decision in front of all of my friends and family. And she's like, but you can't talk about the other charges that were thrown out because we're only talking about this. And I said, over my dead body. Like, literally, you can't take any more from me. We're doing it on my terms, and I don't fucking care what you guys say. They're like, well, you might get cross-examined. I'm like, don't threaten me with a good time. Like, literally. like really? So that's exactly what happened. It was... He was there. I was here. The judge was here. My 6'8" brother was behind him. My parents were there. 30 of my closest friends. And I went top to bottom, and his lawyers were sitting there squirming because they're like, she's not supposed to talk about this. Like, this is not how this is supposed to be. But these 3 charges on these others, I don't care. We're not doing this anymore. The judge there was one question that I directed towards her, and I just said, I don't understand why people do this, and why do people like you let him get away with this? And she just looked at me and was like, you made this choice. I didn't, because I only want to go to trial. Let's go to trial right now. Let's have a trial right now. We've set the stage. But so I got a peace bond for a year that lasted a year to protect me. Whatever. And I called my friends at City News and I said, do you want to come to University Ave and talk to me after this? And they put a camera on it, and the rest is history.
Interesting.
Did not expect to have an organization. I did not expect to be this involved in politics, but I kept getting invited back. I kept getting at Kristen Wong Tam, MPP for Toronto Centre. They kept inviting me into the provincial government, and then I got into the federal government, and then and my brother looked at me that year and he was like, I think you have a charity. I was like, oh, okay, sure. I guess so. And so we did all that. And here we are.
That is amazing, honestly. There was one thing I wanted to ask you about that just reminding me of this. There was a committee hearing, I believe, where you spoke at, and that generated quite a bit of interest online. Can you explain to everybody what exactly happened at this committee hearing?
Oh, Anita Vandenbeld. Michelle Ferrer is gonna laugh when she sees this. That's when Michelle and I met.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that's
okay.
So we're in 2024. Eve had just been. I think the nonprofit paperwork got registered on the 24th of July.
Okay.
I get a call a couple days later from a clerk out of Ottawa, and they're like, "Do you want to come speak next Wednesday at committee?" And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, it's the Status of Women Committee. I think we need to hear from you. I said, oh, yeah, sure, of course. I look at the date and I'm like, oh, July 31st, 2024. We are 3 years on the dot, on the money. So I called my parents and I said, you want to go to Ottawa? I flew up from LA. I can go to Paris the long time it takes me to get to Ottawa. We went up and I was very optimistic. I was like, oh, they want to hear this. They want that, my dad's here, my mom's here. This is great. We can be honest. We, talk about this finally with, the people that are in charge of this legislation and blah, blah, blah. Tell the story, do the 5 minutes. I, for better or for worse, brought the photos. I know I wasn't allowed to bring props, but really, I needed people to see it.
Right.
And I think words do it justice, but when you can see it, it changes everything. And then I remember some sort of argument happened between Anita and Michelle, and Anita then put a motion in about abortion with Anita Vandenbeld of Ottawa region on the Liberal Party, and then Leah Gazan, who's MP out of Manitoba, NDP. Obviously, they had a coalition at the time. And you can see on the back, Leah Gazan was on Zoom, and you can see on the back of her paper in giant red letters the words abortion. So here I am. I'd flown 14 hours on the 3rd year anniversary of my attempted murder in Parliament to talk about this, and they motioned to talk about abortion.
Did you have even a chance to speak at all?
I spoke for 5 minutes. I said the story, but imagine we're sitting here and I do that to you and you're just like, no, but we're going to go talk about my car. That's great. Right? Like, that's literally what it was like. And I was, my friend, Megan Walker beside me, I didn't know her at the time, but we looked at each other like, is this really happening? And they're voting to not talk about what we came here to talk about. That's killing us at rates that we've never seen before in this country. I was on my little chair. Anita and Michelle were passing the baton back and forth. And I made a coffee. Went and hung out with my parents in the audience. Went back. And at 15, 20 minutes had gone by. And I'm like, why the hell am I here?
That is just so frustrating.
I'm like, oh, again, really? You don't want to sit here and I remember Anna Roberts, who's like my political.
He looks up to
I know
our area, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, King Von.
Yeah.
And
she was passionate that day, wasn't she? I saw some. Yeah.
She was like, the other parties don't care. And I was like, yeah. And then Megan and I looked at each other after this just kept escalating, and we were just like, do you want to just go?
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I was so tired. I just gotten done running through the whole gamut again. I felt so utterly disrespected as a human. And I walked out and I said, no wonder nothing fucking gets done in this country. And I yelled that at the top of my lungs. I didn't say it that nicely. And my friend Chow had a reporter of City News. I knew they were there, but they took a video of that. And
Seen it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not my classiest moment, but highly worth it.
And I think a lot of Canadians agree with you. It's true. Why doesn't anything get caught and done in this country? And it's oftentimes because of political reasons, right?
This was not political. This was nasty.
It was.
This was venom. And I was hysterically crying, like sobbing. Not only is this my least favorite day of the year, like if I could erase that day, I would. Not only did I come, like, to be genuine and authentic and really have this conversation to try to make a change in it. I can't fix what happened to me, but like, let's do something together, nonpartisan, like whatever. And I needed triple down on all of the things that I, nearly being killed, the government staying everything. And now you're going to play these games. Like, I don't know what to do anymore. And so it snowballed into pretty, like, that was in the news cycle for a while.
Right.
That went everywhere. And that's when Michelle and I became friends.
He's amazing. Another person I've seen you with is Pierre Poilievre. There was, I believe the press conference might have been around here. It might have been when there was a home invasion. I think I saw you speaking. Yeah. Can you let us know, how did that connection happen, even with the Conservative Party in general? Were you were at the convention a couple of weeks ago? Were you were there as well? How did that connection sort of happen? And would you identify as a conservative? Has it always been that way?
I was so disconnected from Canadian politics that, living in the U.S., I didn't really, I think I wanted just away from Canada for that period of time. I had voted Conservative previously. I think it was Aaron O'Toole back in the Snap election.
That's right.
Yeah. And because I just couldn't deal with what was going on with the party, but I voted NDP in the provincial election, so I'm on Team Survivor no matter what that looks like. Okay. And so I actually, that day, July 31st, 2024, when Anita did what Anita and Leah did, Pierre actually sent staffers over because they saw it all go down on the parliamentary cameras. And Anita pressed the panic button. The parliamentary police came up. My mom was yelling at her. She's like, "You can arrest me, but you can't arrest my daughter," because she has to go to America where she's safe. And I'm like, what is this day? Like, can we just... I love my mother because she's a mama bear, and but my gosh, that was a train wreck. So we ended up in Shelby Cramp Newman's office, and one of my favorite people in the party, Holly, we kind of befriended each other, and then she's like, we really care about this issue, and we want to help you. And that's when I started to really pay attention to what had gone on legislatively. Like, I knew what happened in my case, but what was really going on en masse.
Yeah.
And like, Trudeau's policy is the reason why my ex was let out on bail. C-75. That is a choice.
Bill C-75.
That is exactly why.
Yeah.
He should never have been let out for what he did to me. He should be incarcerated right now for what he did to me. And he's sitting in a house 20 minutes over that way. The same one that he tried to take my life in because of policy in this country. That's it. I was a willing victim. I had all the evidence in the world, able to speak, credible, all of these things. And I was never given a criminal trial.
It's so unfortunate. In most cases, the criminals committing the crimes over and over again are utilizing that Bill C-75 to get out of jail like a revolving door and committing crime and a crime again. And there's other ones like Bill C-5 and some other ones that the Liberals put through that really allowed criminals to take advantage of this country and has led us to where we are. How much do you think we cannot separate politics from these real issues? Like, for the people listening that they don't care about politics or apolitical, does it almost have to, you almost have to care in a way, because real situations and real people are affected by legislation, are affected by politics?
Politics is in everything. It's in everything. You have to... People say, I don't want to talk about politics because it's uncomfortable, or we have to identify with one particular party over and over and over again. The Conservative Party welcomed me in.
Yeah.
They took care of me in those moments. So why the heck wouldn't I vote for them? When I endorsed Anna Roberts and Sandra Kubina, and they both won, and they're both amazing women, I got such a lashing from people on the internet for doing that. And that was not my organization that did that. My organization operates nonpartisanly. But I voted for the people who took care of me in the moments and who seemed to understand that what's going on in this country is wrong.
Right.
And voted for common sense or whatever the slogan was. No, I voted for the people who actually cared for me. I couldn't in good faith vote for the Liberal Party after what Anita did. Are you kidding me?
Right.
I would be gaslighting myself.
That's your individual experience, and that's your right. And I encourage people to vote. Like, a lot of people
Absolutely
still try to opt out or not voting. You know, they don't want to partake, but it's your God-given right to vote, and it does have consequences. Policies and politics, unfortunately, do have consequences. Why do you think, like, the Liberal government has been just so inactive when it comes to diving after crime and the real reasons? Now they want to propose Bill C-14, which is their solution to the problem they created with Bill C-75 and C-5, which we already ran through. But where do you think this inaction comes from? Like, the Conservatives put through 242. They wanted to anyways. They rejected it. Why now? And what took so long?
I think because the collective voice of Canadians has been screaming at them that this is wrong, that the way that crime has been handled in this country is egregious.
That's right.
I really think it's the collective voice. It's people such as yourself, all of our friends with many friends in common, you know, people genuinely caring, and organizations that have united and said, like, what are we doing? Like, we're killing our citizens with these policies. This has to cease. This has to end somewhere. Otherwise, it's going to end the way that it's looking like it's going to end. And I know ideology has gotten in the way of common sense. I know that people, I think it's a Canadianism as well, like the kindness and the tolerance of, well, if you just tell them don't and they apologize and maybe we can just work this out.
That's part of it.
And we're nice people and the world thinks we're really nice, so we got to be nice about it. I really think living in America after that, it's like, yeah, tolerant until it kills you.
Yeah.
And we need to have boundaries, and we need to enforce those boundaries, and we need to make sure that innocent people are protected and that the charter rights of these innocent people also matter. We have a thing called the Canadian Victims Bill of Rights, which is a lovely, I think, 33-sectioned, fancy worded, victims have rights, blah, 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 and then it nullifies at the end. It's not enforceable. So we have all this language that's there that we can't actually do anything with. And I think that it's high time that Canadians start doing something about it. You know, I'm not pro incarcerate everyone, like throw away the key, but there are certain individuals, and science will tell you this, behavior will tell you this, that cannot be a part of society.
That's true.
A normal, healthy, functioning society. And that's just a reality that we have to accept. I think jails need to do better at rehabilitation. I think we need to start younger with young offenders or people that look like they're in the systems. We need, look at what happened in, oh God, Thames Ridge. Like, there were moments there that could have been intervened on where, like, what are we doing about that?
Yes.
Why are we not increasing our mental health supports? Why are we not putting people into rehabs? Why are we not dealing with, you know, young men who are showing the signs of potentially becoming an adult abuser in the education system? Why aren't we handling it there?
Yes, the Youth Criminal Justice Act in itself needs to be revisited.
Yeah.
Many people have seen the holes in that in general, and it needs to be a lot of things in this country. That's the sad thing, is like, I look at the recent election and the Liberals almost won by a majority, and I'm just like blown away at that. And I think it speaks to your point that Canadians are maybe just too nice, and maybe there was the boomers that were involved in this, etc., on why they won again. But after 10 years of all that, of all this, where there's tangible evidence of your stories, of other people's stories when it comes to offenders who are on bail and stuff as a consequence of Liberals, I can't believe that the Canadians decided to go with that same path.
I think what happened in the U.S. and this concept of extremism, far right, just made. I remember getting painted with that brush. Well, you're conservative, so you're insane, and you are a mega lovely, like what?
You voted NDP at a certain point.
Like, what are you? Oh, I having to I gave up defending it. Like it actually became kind of abusive with certain people who were not for me endorsing the Conservative Party, but I said, I'm speaking from my lived experience. How many politicians have you sat on the phone with or sat in the room with and had real conversations? How many, have been in a committee meeting that went absolutely AWOL and certain people came to your defense and certain people caused the problem? I voted from personal experience,
right.
And I voted intelligently in the way that I thought would actually make a difference for these issues, because I do believe that sexual assault and intimate partner violence, human trafficking are some of the most important issues that are plaguing us, that everyone knows about, nobody wants to talk about, and we just kind of oh, that's really sad, and we move on. But we need to understand that economically, these issues, billions of dollars.
Right.
With 44% of women having some form of intimate partner violence in their life, what is that doing to the healthcare system? What does that do to the education system? What does that do to the family structure? What does that do to the criminal system, the civil system, the family court system? Being a productive member of society, having a job, all of these things eat at our progress. And if we don't deal with these issues between men and women that hate men, and women and men that hate women, we can't hate each other.
Right. We got to work together.
We have to work together, and we have to respect each other's differences and understand that the genders are different and we all need different things. But we have to have the basic fundamentals and the basic same values of being kind and taking care of each other. So, if we understood the economics of this, I think it might have a deeper influence. But I've also come to the conclusion, because I've been perplexed, asking the same question you asked. Why do they keep doing? Why do the Liberals keep voting down legislation? What did they just vote down? The crime, the refugees with criminal histories? What? Sorry, what?
To send them back. Yes, exactly. If you could, yes.
What is, really you want to, well, okay, so that seems illogical in every capacity. And, a 5-year-old could decide differently, and I think they would. What is it? And I obtuse thought process perhaps, but follow the money? Is someone profiting off of this? And I don't have the answer. I don't.
I think they're putting politics, money including, over Canadian safety. That's what it comes down to. And maybe they'll never reach across the aisle to work with the Conservatives, but I can argue and show you an example recently where the Conservatives will. Jamil Javani helped and went over to the United States. I had him on the podcast. He is a friend of the Vice President, and he went over there to help discuss negotiations to help the betterment of Canada as a whole. Would the Liberals have done that? I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, it's hard to be convinced. And I think we saw it at the convention, which was so fun. Such a blast.
It looks like a great time.
It was a great time. And Pierre's speech was very, very impactful, as it always is. And what I noticed is that there were so many young people there. It was a lot of young people, and I was fascinated by that. And I think people are just kind of craving normalcy again.
I think the future is conservative, Cait, to be honest with you. And usually it's the other way around. The younger people tend to be more liberal, but a lot of young people are voting conservative or interested in conservative policies. And I think it's as a consequence of the younger generation and people using social media to use their voice rather than just this ecosystem of mainstream media that has one narrative that tends to be left-leaning.
Yeah, or controlled by the powers that be in billions of dollars, right? So you see it with, all of our core friends, and it's like we can actually have these conversations that wouldn't necessarily have even gotten attention, even though they rightfully deserve it. And it's very uniting. And I think that's what's really important is I know there's a lot of like, oh my gosh, Canada, like this is horrible. Everyone wants to leave. Can we get back to a place of hope? Can we find each other to reinstill those values that in the Canada that you and I probably grew up with?
Right.
And where it's, this is what Canadians actually are again. And that Canadians are not this over here, whatever this is going on. Canadians are really this, and where it will come back to, the true north, strong and free. And I think it's really up to our generations, and we're not going to do that hating on other people. And I think liberals need to learn that.
Yeah. And
I think the pushback from more conservative leaning people shouldn't be hatred either. I employ liberals, staunch liberal people who are involved in the party as well, and being able to cross that aisle and being able to have that conversation is beneficial. But it has to come from the place of the core values, not political ideology.
That's right. And I think that's a perfect segue to talk about Canada in general now, just as we kind of tie a bow and everything. But I want to zoom into Toronto. We spoke a little bit before the podcast about Toronto and some concerns that you had in Toronto based on your experience and some things that you guys were working on. Talk to everybody about what exactly is happening here in Toronto that maybe they don't know about.
So when I was a teenager, running through the clubs wild and free, a rite of passage, you're in university, going out with your friends. It's really been interesting to meet certain individuals that I immediately got the sense that they were off, uncomfortable, even at a young age, and then watch them get charged and convicted for sexual abuses, and watch this ecosystem of the nightclubs in Toronto, and that all of the horrific things that I've seen over the last almost half my life now, and finally being able to hold some of these individuals to account. And my right hand, my law firm, Catherine Marshall Law, we've proposed a class action against the nightclubs that have been propping up registered sex offenders for the last almost seems like an eternity. And it's high time that these types of industries be held to account, and we're happy to work with them. We've offered notices. We said, come to the table. We won't go down this, legal pathway that we have fully in our pocket, but we'll see. There's a few of the main groups that have come forward, and a few of them have completely ignored, and we're in the process of certifying that, getting that together. We have dozens and dozens and dozens of women and girls, like I'm talking Gen X all the way to Gen Alpha, everybody in between. And it's like we're sitting, so King West is right there. It's really painful for me because there's so many moments where I've seen iffy situations. I've lost girlfriends to nefarious behavior. I mean, they've been drugged and killed, and nobody's been held to account, or the people responsible for it haven't been held to account. And so we are working with law enforcement, we are working with our lawyers, and we want to make a change here in Toronto so that young people can go out and have a good time and not worry about 49-year-old men drugging and raping 18-year-old girls.
That's insane.
Or 16-year-old girls or 15-year-old girls or whatever age they find. So that's been going on for a long time, and I remember witnessing it a lot. Even after, I modeled for 5 years internationally. I wasn't in Toronto that much, and came back, and it was still the same individuals. And I blame our justice system for not holding these individuals to account the first time, but we're here to hopefully bridge the gap and find a positive way to move forward. And if the nightclubs and the hospitality groups don't want to play ball, then see you in court.
It's interesting. You moved to the States, but your passion to sort of save the country and save the city of Toronto and do what's right is still there.
I don't hate this country. I hate what it did to me. I have amazing friends here. I have amazing family here. I have amazing people here. It's not all bad. I think I also feel safer I can do it from an arm's length, so feel less dangerous. I can kind of take a bird's eye view of everything and go, okay, this is what's going on, and what's going on in Calgary versus Toronto. Like, is there something we can learn from this city? We're a multinational and Violence Everywhere is a multinational organization. So it's like, I can take, okay, what's working here? What's working there? Or let's compare apples to oranges. What's working in the States? What's working in Canada? How do we bridge these gaps? Because the issues are the same.
Right.
Look at the Epstein list.
Right.
That is like I said, a macrocosm of what's been going on in the nightclub industries with certain individuals. And I'm holding my tongue until it's an appropriate time to name these individuals. But it's come to a head, and I'm very, very grateful to be in a position where we can affect change like this and protect. The number of, I call them children. They're teenagers, but number of young girls that I've had conversations with over the last 3 months since we went public with the sex offenders additional charges, crying, sobbing on the phone, like, I don't know what to do. He did put this in my drawer and then put me into this bathroom and did this to me, and like rinse and repeat 30, 40, 50 times. You're like, why? Whatever it takes. I will stick my neck out there. The organization will put our foot down. Our lawyers will get involved, and like, enough is enough. Why are these known abusers, these charged abusers, these convicted abusers allowed to continue being around 18, 19-year-old girls that are, dressed provocatively with alcohol and substances? Why are 50-year-old men allowing that to continue? That's not acceptable. And we need to do something about it, because I don't want to lose more girls. I don't want more young girls to be in trauma simply because they wanted to have a fun night out. It's not acceptable.
You're totally right. And it's the sad part about Canada in this sense is when we talk about the legal system and stuff like that. But I've asked my guests this question a lot. I'm very curious to get your answer and see what you say. But I often ask them about pride when it comes to Canada. And you, as a Canadian citizen, you moved abroad. But I want to ask you, are you proud to be Canadian?
In the old sense of the word, perhaps. I think in childhood I was. I think it was a badge of honor. This has been said 100,000 times, but I don't recognize the country. Even landing at the airport, I'm like, what is going on here? Like, this is wild. It just doesn't feel the same, because it's not the same. Am I still proud to be a Canadian of the values that, you and I grew up with? 100%. Was it amazing to feel Canadian pride during the conservative convention where it was like, I feel safe here. I did not, like, it was such a, I was like, I feel safe with these people. And it's a very male-dominated space, but I was like, you know, I don't feel safe walking around Toronto.
Yeah.
You know, I was standing outside here waiting to get up into the studio, and I stood like this at the door because I'm just like watching every single possible thing that could potentially happen because I know there's no recourse and no one's coming to save you. And I can't have pepper spray. So it's
And have dog mace instead, which is technically
actually one of my board members on the U.S. side has a company called Bestie Defense, and we are working on something too.
Interesting.
Yeah, we're working on a Canadian appropriate product that will help keep, you know, people safe on the streets. But yeah, am I proud? I think in my heart, yes. Mentally, what's happened to me in relation to Canada just has been so disorienting. And I think I'm proud of Canadians that don't want other people to hurt and want to make it better. I think that's worth being proud of. But I'm firstborn Canadian, you know, I'm European descent. I'm an immigrant, you know, seeming twice over myself, but am I proud of the way that we've been doing things? No. Like, how can I be? Like, this isn't right.
That's totally fair. And I knew you were going to have a good answer. That's why.
No, it's just the truth, right? It's like, it's I can't live here anymore. And I, if I could, I would.
Right.
But I'm too scared.
Right. Yeah, it's unfortunate to where it's come. I think a lot of Canadians share the sentiment that you have shared today. And I just want to thank you for sharing your story and everything that you bring to the table. And I think you're bringing real impact with your voice, with your story, with your initiatives. And I love that you're working with the Conservative Party. I love that story, how they reached out to you and they really connected with you. That makes me very proud to vote Conservative when I hear something like that.
They really have done. I voted for the people that actually took care of me in those moments and have for the last year. And again, I wasn't embedded in any particular political anything, but they've stood by my side. They've stood by Survivor's side. They have fought in those rooms for us. And for that, that's why they got my vote.
I hope Canadians hear that, especially women. I hope they hear that, honestly.
It's not your dad's Conservative Party. You know, there are people from all walks of life in the Conservative Party because I wish we could call it something else. You know, I wish we could, like, because the language has that tone and it has that the historical meaning that it's like, you know, old white stuffy guys, and that's not what it looks like at all. And you know, I think it's coming back to those core Canadian values that would make us proud Canadians.
That's amazing. That honestly is amazing, and that is well said because women oftentimes they get caught up in like, oh, I should vote Liberal because all my women friends vote Liberal. Like, you know what I mean? There is a voice for you on the other side, and here it is right here. So thank you for what you're doing. Appreciate it. And I have a final segment on Couple Casuals podcast, which I call Salute. It's an opportunity for the guests to just end us off with a cheers, words of encouragement, anything you feel called to just tell the listeners.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love it. I really... Should I look to camera?
You do it every day? Right there?
It's been a rough 5 years. The things that Canada has taken from me, that individuals in this country have tried to take from me, have been... I don't have words. But I'm so grateful, genuinely, for what the public has done to support me, to support us, to be my justice, to give these dark issues that are hidden away in the back corners, give them the light and allow people to start healing publicly and say, hey, you're not alone in this and we understand and you're safe here. And so I'm very grateful for everyone who's been by our side. I really am. Thank you.
So powerful, Cait. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I wish you all the best. Keep fighting, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And thank all of you. Until next time, I love everybody else. Ciao.